The Heartless CEO. Written by Yerun G. Chapter 11. I'm so happy for you. Rita ran to Danica and hugged her tightly. Thank you. Danica tearfully hugged her back. She looked at the old woman and thanked her. From now on, you can call me Grandma. Although she was not smiling, Danica could feel her sincerity. Yay! Will I have a baby brother when you and Mommy are married, Daddy? Danica asked innocently. Danica and Rita slowly lost their smile when they heard what the child had asked Steven. Daniela confusedly looks at her father when he cleared his throat. When her father acts like that, she knew that he didn't want to answer her question. She exchanged gazes with her mother, and she was glaring at her. She quickly squeezed herself in her father's arms and hid her face there. She gets scared when her mother gets mad at her. She hurts her and tells her she will give her to someone else if she wasn't obedient. She couldn't complain to her great-grandmother and father because she did not want them to fight with her mother. Even though Daniela is young, she already understands the strange things going on around her. It was her grandmother who instructed her to ask her great-grandmother about why she and her father sleep in separate rooms. Daniela, baby, come here to Aunt. Smiling, Rita called her niece when the surroundings became awkwardly quiet. The girl remained in her father's arms as she shook her head. She did not know what was wrong with her reaction earlier, but she felt that even her aunt was not happy with it. Maybe she's sleepy. I'll leave first and put her to sleep. Steven stood up while crying his daughter. He has left the wedding planning to them. When the girl was placed on the bed, he stared at her face. He smiled as she yawned before smiling at him. Do you really want a baby brother? He caressed her cute cheek. Daniela smiled up to her ears as she nodded in response to her father. Steven smiled sadly at his daughter. It was her wish, but he couldn't give it. Her real mother came to his mind again. If she is still alive, it is probably not impossible to grant the child's request. Darn, why did I think that? Steven asked himself and shook his head. Steven was unaware that the girl has fallen asleep as he argued with himself. Are you sure of your decision already? Gavin asked Nicole as he helped her pack their clothes. Nicole nodded determinedly at the young man. It's been 5 years since she came to Canada with the help of him and his father, Canor. During her first 2 years there, she was with Canor. He supported her until she was able to stand on her own 2 feet again. He supported her until she was able to stand on her own 2 feet again. He returned to the Philippines because he preferred to live there than abroad. Nicole has changed a lot. She did not waste the second life God had given her. With Gavin's help, she has achieved a lot and proven her abilities. They also helped her build his father's business that was sold when her life was in danger. That was also one of the reasons why she wanted to go back. Connor wants her to design the second building he plans to build. In the country where she is now, she is already an architect. She has Gavin's surname, so she is better known as Mrs. Schwartz. I'm going to miss you, boy. Gavin pinched the boy's cheek. Smiling, Nicole watched her son who was already riding Gavin's back. He also calls Gavin Daddy. but he knows he is not his biological father.
Daddy Gavin, please come with us. I don't want another man to approach Mommy.
Gavin grinned as his eyes met Nicole's. The latter just gave him a frown and blamed him for why the boy said that. He strictly instructed him not to let any other man approach her and lest her mother to hurt again. Apart from that, he also gave another instruction to the boy. But they are keeping it a secret. Son, haven't we already talked about this? Gavin caressed the child's face as he stared at him. Sen pouted and nodded at him. He is like a second father to him.
But don't be late, okay? You should be able to follow us anytime soon.
Gavin chuckled before ruffling the child's hair. The way he talks, it was as if he was already an adult. He can say that his intellect is unique, and as a child, he already has the traits of his real father. Gavin sighed, remembering Sen's real father. He knew Stephen, and he had once met him. He knew his father had an ulterior motive when he persuaded Nicole to return to their country.
Son, Daddy Gavin has a lot of work to finish here.
Nicole spoke gently to the child. She smiled shyly at Gavin as their eyes met again.
Then, we should come back here, Mommy, after your work there.
Nicole looks at the young man, asking for help. He is better than her when it comes to making the boy understand. Sen, don't you miss your grandpa Kanor too? Sen's narrowed eyes widened when he remembered his grandfather. He stopped bothering the two and hurried back to his own room to ready other things.
Thank you.
Nicole smiled gratefully at the young man. Sometimes, she is hesitant about returning to her country of birth. Ever since she and her son settled in Canada, she has had no news about the people involved in her near-death situation. If only her face could be changed so that no one would recognize her. She had already done it. At first, she was afraid that Stephen might find out that she gave birth to triplets. She's afraid he will take Sen from her too. But now she has made her decision. If she and Danica ever cross paths again, she won't let her stop on her again. Gavin stared at the girl when she suddenly fell silent. He knew that she thought again of her two children left in the hands of the person who wanted to kill her. At first glance, they would not recognize Nicole. She now looks much more matured, and she had also changed her way of dressing up. Even though she has a child and is protected by him. Many men still want to court her. They see each other as siblings. But those who know them do not think so. Be careful and don't rush into a decision once you're there. Gavin reminded the lady.
Do you think my children will recognize me as their mother when they find out the truth?
Nicole asked the young man tearfully. She found out just recently that one of her children was missing. She had to find that one, but she knew it wouldn't be easy. Knowing Danica, she knew that she could also hurt her child and her care if she finds out that she was still alive. You need to be resilient and fight that fear that resides in your heart for them. Don't worry, I'll be right there immediately after this project I'm holding is over. Gavin gave his encouragement to her. Somehow, Nicole was relieved to think that someone was willing to help her. Gavin drove the mother and son to the airport. He promised to follow them as soon as he had done what he had to do with this company in Canada.
Mommy, is my real father also in the Philippines?
Nicole's chest suddenly throbbed at the child's question. He had been silent all the way, and she thought he was sleeping. The airplane will soon land on the ground. He never asked which country when he found out his true identity. So, she was surprised now at whatever was going on in his young mind.
I won't look for him. I just want to know where he is.
Sen smiled at his mother when he felt she was uncomfortable. Sen was silent again until they got off the plane. He quickly put on the sunglasses, and so did his mother. From what he sees around, the climate there is different from what he was used to. It was hot and crowded. He was stepping into this country for the first time, so his eyes wandered around a lot. Nicole stood patiently in the baggage area and waited for their bag when she noticed that her son was no longer beside her. She called for his son anxiously as she looked around.
Miss, I saw him go there.
A person who had been next to her and the way pointed out. Nicole's gaze followed where the woman's finger was pointing. She immediately thanked her before turning to search for the boy. Sen stopped stepping in front of the old woman and handed her the wallet he had found. He saw earlier that it had fallen from her open bag, so he chased her. Madame Asuncion furrowed her brows as she looked at the child who stood in front of her. She thought he was playing in the airport and accidentally ended up in front of her.
Young boy, don't waste my time, young boy,
Asuncion told him. She could not continue to step because he blocked her way.
I'm not.
Sen replied rudely. Regardless of the person's old age, he didn't like her. Madame Asuncion stunned when she looked closely at the boy's face. He was acting like an adult standing in front of her. She was amused when he removed the glasses from his eyes.
I just followed you to return this wallet. You dropped it.
Asuncion's lips parted and she didn't know what to say to the boy. She remembered something with his way of speaking.
Impossible,
she whispered under her breath and could not take her eyes off to the boy's face. Sen frowned when he noticed that the old woman was staring at him too much.
I know I'm cute, but I'm too young for your age.
Gray, who had been next to the Madame Asuncion, cocked. He restrained himself from laughing because of the sharpness of the tongue of the boy. The Madame was talking too. He was the one Stephen had instructed to accompany his grandmother for a trip to Canada. Instead of being annoyed or offended by the boy, Asuncion smiled. She still wanted to ask him what his name was, but he left in a hurry. She watched him and saw him approach a woman. Even Gray couldn't help but watch the boy. Even though he was still young, he has a strong personality. Stephen suddenly entered his mind as well. The boy resembles the young master. He witnessed the growth of the latter, so he knew his attitude and face when he was young. Gray turned his gaze to Madame Asuncion when he realized the last thing that entered his mind. She stared at the boy like he did. He knew she also thought of what he had thought. He stared again at the woman the boy was currently talking to. She seems to be afraid of even temporarily losing sight of the child based on the way she hugs the boy. She could not see her face very well because it was side view and she was wearing sunglasses.
Let's go.
Asuncion said to her companion when she noticed that he was also dazed by the boy who is now with a woman. Gray moved quickly and pulled the 2 suitcases. Even though Asuncion is already old, she was still a Gale. To be continued.